Dearly beloved, warm greetings from Indo-African Commission for Children and Aged, a movement which stands and represents the cause of millions. It is a love-driven vision which transcends the boundaries of nations and oceans. This is a haven of refuge for the poor, downtrodden, and all those little children caught in the trap of utter poverty, illiteracy, and ignorance. In this vast and widespread world, which encompasses nearly 350 countries, the most learned people of the world have chosen to call the African continent as the Dark Continent. This African continent, which comprises of countries caught in the deadly clutches of poverty, it is no wonder that this continent is called Dark Continent, as no nation could boast of such acute poverty, lack of knowledge, pestilence, famine, unemployment, and widespread internal violence, and many indelible things of the world history, such as autocracy and dictatorship, which has now pushed them to a very pathetic condition out of which they cannot come out so easily. Nevertheless, due to the selfless, merciful, and gracious services rendered by many multinational social activists, we could witness the veil of darkness slowly getting removed and visage of light beginning to radiate in some parts of the country. What is the difference between the other developed nations and Africa? The difference between other developed nations and Africa is that the basic infrastructural sectors required for the development and growth of nation, like agriculture, trade, commerce, transportation, road facilities, medical facilities, education, protection, export and import, which are all at its lowest ebb. Certainly, this comes as a big hurdle for a country's growth. Here, most of the major roads, even the roads connecting cities and districts, continue to be muddy roads not covered with tar or concrete. Due to poor medical facilities, health hazard is widespread with many diseases and fatalities. Multitude of uncared young boys who get no opportunity to go to even primary school and who grow up eventually as terrorists. Due to lack of quality food, safe drinking water, and medical facilities, it is common to see mothers giving birth to children with defective growth and physical infirmity. In many families, the appearance of father, grandfather, children will reveal that for generations they have been under the cruel stranglehold of poverty. Though this African continent has a very conducive climate as well as good soil conditions, like uncared and orphan children, even the agriculture sector, which does not display a concrete and modern machinery, takes a backward trend, leading to inflation, unemployment, which in turn contributes to poverty, famine, thus keeping the whole community under the tight grip of economic disaster. Due to the failure and fallout of basic social infrastructural systems, in many places meeting of even daily basic needs has become a challenge. Because of this bitter and besetting circumstances, a section of the community which is largely affected and troubled is the young children. Hearts will surely melt to witness the sight of such forsaken and orphan kids surviving for their lives in the streets and by lanes of the nation. That is why the international organizations such as UNICEF and WHO ascertain the condition of African nation as follows. Can you believe this? Because of acute poverty and unemployment conditions, close to 43% of the children are unable to get even basic primary education. More than 2 lakhs children are being sold with or without their knowledge as slaves. In BBC News Channel, the Anti-Slavery Society program clearly computes and confirms this. The World Health Organization, WHO, has announced that nearly 5 crore people, mainly children, are affected every year by malarial fever, an illness which is almost non-existent in developed countries. According to the statistics provided by WHO and UNICEF, every day nearly 22,000 little children die due to lack of proper clothing, food and health care. More than 30% of the children are born with deficiency, underweight or other health anomalies. Under these grave circumstances, even childbirth and confinement poses a deadly and cumbersome challenge to the poor mothers. Do you know, in this African continent, more than 160,000 poor children born to AIDS-affected parents are made orphan even at birth. These children are not only forsaken, but the worst part of is that they also inherit the deadly disease from their parents. Presently, about 20,000 children affected by AIDS have no hope other than to face imminent death. These innocent little children who did no wrong on their own are the result of fleshly pleasures of some strange bed partners. How agonizing is it to know that these kids cannot escape from the hands of the deadly demon of death called AIDS. What sin did these innocent infants commit? When will this foolishness end? When will the injustice stop? These oppressed and forsaken young boys are going to be tomorrow's beacon of hope, aren't they? These young children, who are God's novel creation, are going to stand as the country's future pillars, aren't they? These youth with new ideas, new hopes, modern education and discipline are the ones who are going to rise up and shine and change tomorrow's history. Modern day science and technology has caused a revolution of sorts by achieving things which were once beyond anybody's imagination and belief. Atomic research, telecommunication, space, electronuclear researchers, and other majestic inventions of the modern day science has become a child's play and everyday routine for the present day youth. It is of no wonder that the children of domestic servant maids are growing up to be doctors and engineers, and the children of economically poor people are flying frequently to overseas and have also attained greater heights in life. This is the change, this is the transformation. Only such a revolutionary change can take humanity from Stone Age civilization to the victorious path of the Golden Age. Nevertheless, a poet of darkness penned his lines as follows: "We got our independence in the midnight, and the new day is yet to dawn." Another respectable poet reviews these dark lines as follows: "We got our independence in the midnight. Who said it is yet to dawn? Unless you wake up, you cannot see the day break." Yes, my beloved, in spite of many challenges, we have grown, we have come up in life. Our community, especially its youngsters, are creating new records. We have smartphone, laptop, iPod and new model motor vehicles. On the other hand, with new records, new inventions, new opportunities, new comforts, new income sources, with new thoughts, ideas and aspirations, our youngsters are developing. What a joy, what a happiness it is to see such youngsters growing and shining in the sky like bright morning stars. Yet, in the annals of history, no kingdom or no country which has ignored or isolated its youth, the future pillar of the nations, has survived for long, neither can it succeed. But how distressing it is to know that in this blessed world, only one continent amongst all 7 continents of the world is today called its black continent or dark continent. What wrong did this young group of men do? Who is behind or who is the root cause for this injustice, iniquity? Who has snatched from their hands even the half square meal that they hardly get to eat? O poverty, will you not face destruction? Millions and millions of half-fed young boys who have no assurance whatsoever of when the next meal would come have accepted hunger as a norm after seeing their own younger brothers wailing for milk and their weak mothers sucking with empty bosoms. Perhaps one revival poet who penned the following lines did this with this thought, I suppose, a child crieth for milk, a mother crieth in hunger, we cry for a job. My dear friend, the whole house is wailing, wailing. A revolutionary poet impressed at the sight of these tear-filled lines and said, if an individual is denied food, we will destroy the whole world. The sages and the learned people of the past resisted and revoluted against such hunger and starvation. Here I am, extending a special, compassionate and humanitarian invitation from a distant continent, from a destination located beyond the seas and nations. My dear friends, who are filled with love, empathy and compassion of our Lord, are invited. Let us do what is best to those underprivileged and the needy. Remember, by serving these humans, we serve God. In the smile of the poor, let us see the smile of the Almighty. Indo-African Commission for Children and Aged.